Hey folks, welcome to the office hour for Monday, January 31st, 2021. We are going to start the office hour with a question from Paul here about the recipe assignment here. So go ahead and show me what you have, Paul.
So right here, I got this key error of under 30,
Right.
and I found one spot that I had it mistyped in, but
Sure.
I can't find the other.
Okay.
I'm
So,
doing recipe. Go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead.
So I've got the error in the controller of recipes pi, line 55.
Right. Okay. So let's see here. Let's see what's going on here. So this is when is this when you're editing a recipe?
Yes, this is in the edit recipe function.
Okay. Can you show me the HTML file for the edit recipe, please?
Yes. Do you want to see the right here?
Yeah, that's it. And I think I think I found the problem already. So, so here, looks like this is where you're checking to see if it's under 30 minutes or not here.
Boom.
Now pay attention. There you go. There's one spot. I think there's another one somewhere there.
Right there.
Yeah. So all your inputs when you do radio buttons and checkboxes have to have the same name.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Let me see if that fixes this one out.
Yeah, let's find out. Fingers crossed.
These controls are kind of in the way. Let me. There we go.
You might have to go back a page, possibly. Yep. And then try it again. Try just refreshing the page just to see. Uh-oh, still a problem. Did you save all your files here?
Let me double check.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks like it's saved.
Okay. So then what's going on here? So no spot missing. Controls recipes and update recipe. Request type form underscore 30. Huh. Interesting. Did you select an option? Did you select one of the options?
I may not have.
Because if you didn't, it's probably going to lead to that error message because you have to select something. So that's a subtle issue. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, so did it. Now let me see if that actually. So earlier I had it to where it was going back to this screen, but it wasn't actually. The next problem I have is the fact that it's not saving it. And I wonder if I have something wrong with my button.
Okay.
Because my button down here at the bottom at the edit recipe, it's not bringing up the destination.
Let's see. Let's go back to your form, please. And can you show me that button? Let's see what's going on here.
Move that. That makes things much easier. So right here's the button.
It is.
I'm wondering if I have spacing wrong, if I have an extra div in somewhere.
Maybe. Huh. Yeah, let's see here. Let's see here. That could be a possibility. And there's another question from Carl. Is this form set correctly? Let's see here. Sometimes it helps to you know what we could do? I'll tell you what we could. Yeah, I think I see what might be the problem. I don't know if it is. Div. So in other words, I think you have an extra closing div in line 62 here because these close, these close, these close, this closes that.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking that's probably what it is. But yeah, sometimes it just helps to copy your code and put it in the W3 validator to make sure you don't have any extra tags anywhere that could screw this up. So that might have been what happened here. So
one of the things that I did kind of notice was I was going off of this one and it seemed to have that same thing to where it to where it does close that out without opening it up, and I was wondering about that.
Well, that's a good question. I'd have to look at that file in more detail to try to identify what's going on with
Let
that.
me
That's interesting.
delete that out and see if that fixed it.
Yeah, I don't know if I will fix on that, but let's see. Yeah, so you have to
Yeah,
refresh the
so
page. Refresh the page first. Not sure.
see, it still doesn't show the destination.
Okay. Okay.
Whereas, you know, like up here, it'll
Yeah,
show where it's going to. So
I
I'm wondering
see.
if I've
Good
got a
point.
problem with a routing.
Probably not so much a routing issue as a tag issue, I'm guessing. Maybe something else is not correctly there. Let's go, but I'll tell you what, let's go to the very beginning of your edit file and we're gonna go through this bit by bit here. So there's our HTML, we have a nav bar, we have a div here, closing div, that looks fine. Now here's our form tag. So this is our form tag in line 18. I don't see anything immediately, although I would recommend you. Or do you have the, oh, you do have the ID, okay, cool. Just want to make sure the ID gets in there somewhere, okay. Although I personally put it in the route name, but I digress. Let's see, this closes this. We have a div in line 30, form in line 18. So let's see here. Go ahead and start scrolling down slowly. Okay, here we go. Okay. All right, let's go up some more, please. Div, another div, another div. Close that div. We have to close this other div. Okay, that looks fine. And we close that form. Then there's a closing body. There's a closing HTML. Interesting here. Looks like everything's closing correctly here. So weird. Input type submit. There's the button. Is it in the form? Looks like it's in the form, all right. That is an interesting dilemma, to say the least.
Yeah.
How about we? Oh,
the thing
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The only thing I can think of is, yeah, if I have a abnormal amount of divs in, but
Maybe.
I've gone through and I've grouped them all up together.
Yeah.
And I even went through and I went back and I changed a number of things. Do I go ahead and pop there?
Yeah, I pasted it in the chat as well, so you could. So I take the entire file, copy and paste it in that link. It's in the chat as well. So, and let's just test it to see if maybe we have a tag that's not that didn't show up here, or that we're forgetting to close. That could be all it is, and that usually is what's happening. Validator.w3. So validator.w3.org. There you go. Okay, and then just go to validate by direct import. Then just copy and paste the code in there. Let's see what happens. All right, now let's scroll down. Let's see if anything's out of the ordinary. There's a messages below the checkbox. Bad value, that I'm not worried about. That's not a problem. And then you see this little issue, tray ending div. And it says from line 64, tray end tag div. Interesting.
Where do you see that at?
Oh, scroll back up, please. Number two. If you look at the numbers here, number 2, tray end tag div in line 64. And yet, so is there another? That's weird. I thought we closed that correctly though. So I'm kind of puzzled here. This closes this. I wonder if you could hover over. Let me see. I'm just trying to see. I don't see. If any of you can see this, let us know, because I am baffled here.
And if you double click it, it'll show you what the closing div is.
Yeah, Carlos has an idea. Try double clicking on back in the code itself. Or do you mean clicking from W3?
No, from the div. If he clicks right there, double clicks it, it'll highlight it, and it should see like it's closing. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not right. It's extra. It's not closing anything.
Yeah.
Oh.
It highlights whatever it's closing.
Yeah.
There's only one.
Yep. Okay, good tip. Thanks, Carlos. So that's a good tip.
Thank you.
Well, interesting that it still didn't show the link though, but well,
Yeah,
okay.
but it saved the
Yep.
saved it.
Yep. At least it's saving. So
Yeah, it's
I'm gonna be hungry by the time we're done here.
yeah, it's showing it. And it's working, so
There you go. Yes, I
okay.
don't know what happened there with why the text doesn't show up like a user does. I'm guessing because it's an input type. That's probably why instead of a link.
Okay.
That's
Because
probably
it's
the
not going
reason.
because it's not going to a it's not routed, it's not going to a
Well,
direct
it's
route, it's an
I mean,
input
it's
tag.
routing, but it's not going to like a visible route in the sense of you can access. You're gonna see something in the visible page when you go to the like edit route because the capture there is going to be well once you go to the edit route to actually add in the database or validate, it's only for like a split second in the browser.
And this is the only
Right.
command that's redirected. The other ones are render templates to where it's going to.
Yeah. Well, right. Yeah, I know. I know. I'll just saying that you're not going to see that link visibly when you're actually handling that route where you eventually redirect. If you see it, it'll be for like a split second, or you're going to get an error message. So,
Okay.
yeah.
That gets me solved. So now I've got this properly dissected and put together. I been working on it for a better part of the day, and I was just at a stump there.
Yeah, that's happened before. I've seen this happen before with other people when the forms or there's a closing tag that screws things up, and then you have to add or remove a tag or rearrange tags to get stuff to show up correctly, or get stuff to function correctly. So this has happened before. It's nothing out
But
there.
that's a great tip from Carlos as far as double clicking on the closing tag to see where the opening is. That I didn't know that, so that's awesome. Thanks, Carlos.
Yeah, very good tip. Yeah, thanks again, Carlos. Yeah, I knew that also, but yeah, he suggested, so he gets the credit. Well done, Carlos. Yeah, honestly though, well done. Thank you for that tip.
And I'll put it right on back to you. That's the only real question I had.
Okay, cool. Does anybody else have any general questions about assignments or material? We can't talk about exam code, of course, because some folks will not have taken the exam yet, and so I don't want to disclose anything sensitive in that sense. But let me just check first. Anybody have anything you'd like to ask about? Okay, if nobody has questions, we're going to go ahead and focus on working on, we're going to talk about join statements in a little more detail here, just as a refresher for those of you who might be struggling with knowing how to join tables or knowing how to manipulate data from join tables here. Okay, let's go ahead then and let's go back to last week's project. We built our lecture and I'd like to add a couple of features here to our project here. So let me go ahead and I'm going to refresh our memory. You have to refresh my memory here on what this is. So give me a moment. I'm going to open this up here so I can find it. Here, wait, I already have it open. What am I doing? It's already open. Here we go. Hang tight, folks. Hang on for 1 minute. So I just gotta open this up and I gotta make sure I don't open the wrong thing up so you don't accidentally see stuff I've been grading. So it should be bad to say the least. Okay, so I don't need to show you the wireframe from last week because we built out all the features we needed to build out from the that will route all the features that are laid out in the wireframe here, so we don't need to go through that again, I don't think. But yeah, let me make sure I got the correct project. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go. As that's the only thing. I just gotta open this up here. So December, not the GitHub folder. This. Okay, here we go. Okay, let me start sharing my screen then. We'll go ahead and get started here. So let's see here. Let's see here. Right. So right now you don't see anything yet, but that's going to change in a moment here. So let me go ahead and activate our environment here for this project. I already got us to the correct folder here. Okay. So let's go ahead and get this thing loaded up here, and let's do it. So just a quick one, let me just log in fast. So quick reminder here, we have like a list of appointments here. A list of appointments here, we can add appointments here. We can take I think, was this one where we could take appointments? Well, yeah, if there were, anyway, what if you wanted to show all the appointments you have made by chance? So let's go ahead and implement that here. So let's see here. Let me open up our controllers quickly here, and here we go. So right now we have this route which basically shows all the appointments, and we actually managed to split them up as well accordingly. And just a quick reminder of what that looked like here. Here we go. Here we go. So let's put the appointments out by those that were in the past and those that were in the present and future here. So that was the feature that we kind of finished building out last Wednesday here. We didn't get a chance to maybe build like a page that shows an individual appointment, or maybe if you wanted to, we could build a page that shows all the appointments made by a person, or we could even list the people who made each of these appointments in the dashboard page here. Does anybody have a preference what you want to do first? Should we have like a separate view page for each appointment? Should we add the names to all the people who made the appointments? What do you folks think would be a good starting point? Or all the appointments made by one person on its own page? Any preference? Names to the appointments. So like on the dashboard page. Okay, sure, we could do that. So you want to show names of the you want to show the names of the people who made the appointments here. Okay, we can do that then. Let's go ahead and do that right now then. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna copy this method here, which, whoops, sorry. I'm gonna copy this method here. And we're gonna redefine this, and we're gonna do this with a bit of a twist now. So let me go ahead and redefine this with users. And the users who made them. So now this is what things are going to get modified a bit here. This query is just going to grab everything from the appointments table here. And just a reminder, just trying to figure out which schema is called test lecture schema. Right, test lecture schema here. Let's see, where was it? Oh, here it is. Test lecture schema. Here it is. We'll turn that on. Turn this on. Make that the active one. Okay. So here are the appointments we've made so far. So if you were just to grab the data from this table, all you would get is the information about each of the appointments, and then the only information we would get for who it is just the ID of the person who made it. You might go on Facebook and then all you see the IDs of the people who are your friends. Probably not very helpful, is it? So now what we could do here is we can basically connect these tables together here. So here's our appointments table, here's our users table. It'd be nice if we could show the actual name of the person who made the appointment though. So how would we change this query to make it so that we can grab the users who made each of these appointments? What would we change this query to? in line 37. I'm sorry, not line 37. I meant this line 72. Same thing. So I would change the query to show the to grab the users who made them, and grab them along. Yeah. Carlos has the basic idea. I think of one little thing missing, but the general idea. So we gotta join users table. Now notice that because we're starting with the many side of the one-to-many relationship, that we don't need to do a left join. So since we're starting with the appointments table first, we don't have to do a left join because every foreign key has to be linked to somebody that exists in the users table or an ID that exists in the users table. We're going to join the users table here. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure I remember where I am. No, actually, we're going to check and make sure that we can match these up here. So in the users table, we have this column called ID. And then in the appointments table, we have a foreign key called user ID here. So we have to make sure that those match up accordingly here. So what we're going to do now here is we're going to join on appointment.user ID. So that's the foreign key. And then in the appointments table, and then we connect to the primary key in the users table. So users.id. So make sure you include your table name. So once again, to emphasize this one more time, here's the first table, the starting table. This value user ID here is representing the foreign key in that table. And then the table we're joining with, the users table, we're grabbing the primary key ID in that table, we're just equating them to each other. So does anybody have any questions about the query itself and why it's structured that way before we move on?
Yeah, I had a clarifying question.
Yeah.
You said we're joining the many to the many to one, so we use join. And then it'd be many to many, we would use a left join. Is that correct?
I would do if you're doing a main relationship, I would do left joins period because there's no guarantee when you're connecting like two items in a relationship. So like whatever. So like if you had, let's say, what was the one we did? Well, anyway, my memory's full switch keys right now. But let's imagine this. Let's suppose you had. Trying to think of actors in movies, right? Let's suppose you had actors or performers, I should say, who appeared in movies. Performer can be in many movies, and a movie can have many performers. It's not guaranteed. So maybe somebody who's new, a new performer, is not guaranteed to have a role in any movies yet. Or vice versa, new movies just come out, but we haven't actually cast the performers yet. So that's why left joins come in handy. You have to do left joins from the beginning to the end, all the way. Otherwise, if you forget a left join somewhere, it basically turns the whole thing into a series of regular inner joins. So yeah, main use left joins. Yeah, good question. Did I answer it?
Yes, thank you.
You bet. You bet. Any other questions here before we move on to the rest of the code in this method? Cool. Before we move on, actually, let's just test this query just to make sure that this runs in the first place. So I'm going to comment this one out. I'm going to put this in. And okay, we'll make sure it's highlighted. Yes, it is. Good. Let's run this to just make sure it runs. There it is. And you see how these two are the same. That's how we join the tables together. Foreign key, primary key. Okay, so now that we have that done here, the query looks fine. And now we can go ahead and take this and find a way to link the users to each of these appointments. One thing we should probably do is just check to make sure if we have a variable in our init method where we could save a user, and we do. If we didn't, we'd have to include it. So I didn't really get much of a chance to use this last week, but we are going to now. So here is an action that we've created. inside the init method here for an appointment that's going to hold all the data for a user. And so right now we set the variable to none. The reason why we're using none here is because we'll only need to link one user to this appointment because this is a one-to-many relationship. You can't have two users holding the same appointment in a sense, you know, for all purposes. So we're going to eventually link the user to that appointment. And so now here's where things will change a bit. We still have this loop here where we create an instance of the appointment class here, but now we have to grab the user information. So here we create an instance of the type appointment class here. But now we now have to create an instance of the user class, and then we're going to link this user to this appointment. And then this part here is where we split up by future date. That was the bonus thing, really. You don't have to worry about that part necessarily. But these three things are going to be important here. We've already created the appointment, and now we have to grab the user. So let me go ahead and, well, I won't, actually, let's just jump straight and do it here. So whenever you are linking two classes together, you're going to need a second dictionary here. So what happens is you'll recall here, and you know what I'm going to do here, I will test this. Let me go back to the appointments control here. So let me just run this thing. I'm just gonna. So we're not gonna do anything right now. I mean, we're not gonna really use any of this data yet, but we will in a bit. So let me change this method. Just grab all appointments, split up with users. So we're just gonna run it, but I'm gonna run with this part. We're gonna print the results because I want to show you something in the results list here. So let's go ahead and refresh the dashboard here. I'm going to log back in, but that'll take a moment. Okay, it's still good. Okay, now I want to show you the terminal for a minute here. So I want to call your attention to all this mess here. It's a lot of stuff, doesn't it? Remember, so this is a list, and each item in the list, so index 0, you have a dictionary, index 1, you have another dictionary, and so on and so forth. Each dictionary is a separate row in your list here. So like here, everything in row 1 here is a separate dictionary. So you have a key of ID, create that, update that, task, so on and so forth here. And you should see those same things here, ID, create that, update that, blah, blah, blah. Let me minimize over here for just a moment here. I want to show you something, however. So here's the data that came from the appointments table. Now, everything else in that individual dictionary is coming from the other table, the users table. And so you will notice here, I'm going to circle these for good measure, get this working. This here, and this here all have the table names prepended. So in other words, the table names are added to the beginning with a period before it, and then we have to name the column. And the reason is because if you pay attention here and here, we have the same column names here, and same deal, update that here, and then create that here as well. So because we have matching column names, the table name gets added on here. Now you might be wondering, well, why is this important? The reason why this becomes important is because in the user model here, you see these keys on the right-hand side, ID, first name, last name, email, password, create that, update that. You'll notice in the users table, when we grab data there, it's users ID versus just ID. Some of you are gonna be tempted to think, well, gee, maybe I'll just change this to users. Well, what if you start the users table? If you start the users table, you're not gonna have the name of the table users added in there. So long story short, we need to make a new dictionary to match these keys up here. So let's go ahead and do that now. So here we're going to create a new user dictionary here. So here we're gonna have ID. You know what I'm gonna do here just to show you folks. I'm gonna copy some things here. Paste them all in here. I'm gonna tap these over, so hang tight here. So let me get rid of all these selves here. Just put single quotes around, whoops, on those. These I'm gonna replace with this here, get rid of that. And then these datas here, remember, we'll need to grab from an individual dictionary. And so we're grabbing from this variable here. And so that's what we're going to use down here. So all of these, let me just copy this first. Copy that, exchange all these things, and then replace it with this here. And then because these three columns have the table name add as I showed you here, here, and here, we need to add them here. I'm gonna put user ID here, users dot and users dot here. And because this is a dictionary, we have to add commas to the end of these things. So I'd like to include the last one for good measure. Okay, so now we've reformulated our dictionary because we have to match these things here. In fact, let me actually split this up and I think it'll make more sense here. Oops, hang on. Here we go. Okay, so the reason I have these side by side is that these keys on the left-hand side have to match up with these keys on the right-hand side. Because when we're creating an instance of the user class, we are calling on the init method here. And so we need to, so this data variable is a dictionary and we have to recreate this. I mean, we have to create a new dictionary because we got to line this up with this, line this up with that, and so on and so forth. And so we can't just pass in this, we can't pass this variable in directly because of the table names being added where you have duplicate column names, like you see here, here, and here. So yeah. It's one of those painful things that is a little annoying, but you have to do it because otherwise you're going to get a key mismatch here. Does anybody have any questions on why we have to create this dictionary here, this custom dictionary? We don't have access to the data. In a sense, yeah, that's exactly right. Because what happens when you call on CLS here, where you create an instance of the appointment, all you would basically put in here would be the stuff basically in the first table. So the appointments table here. Well, so pardon my circling here, but anyway, all the stuff in the users table would wind up just getting thrown out essentially. We would lose it. So that's exactly right. Good question. So question was, if we don't create, we don't have access to the data, right? And that's basically right. In a sense, you wouldn't have access to the user data. That's right. So that's why we're gonna use this variable here to hold all that for us. Good question. Any other questions before we finish this part up here? Cool. So now we've created the user dictionary. I'll go ahead and close that off here. And now we have to create the instance of the user class. So I'm going to create variable user instance equals. Now I have to check to see, did I import the user? No, I don't think I have. No, I have not. So don't forget to import here. So, and this is why I like importing files, because I'm sure some of you run into this issue with circular imports and you say, from this import that, from that import this. You're gonna have a headache here. So let's just import the file directly at flaskgap.models, import the name of the file, which is just user in this case. And that's all we're gonna need here. So we just import the file directly to save us some headaches. And now we're going to create that user. So with up the lowercase u user is referring to the file, the file user.py, and then the next user, the uppercase user, with referencing the model in that file. And then here we can just pass the dictionary in. So create user, no capitalization here. And now that we have that, we can finally link this appointment, the user to this appointment. So this appointment is this dot, and you notice when you press the dot, you have access to basically all your methods and attributes, including the lowercase user. And you can name it, and yeah, so now we have the user, then we just link that here, and that's it. That's all we need to do. So once again, we create the appointment, the instance of the appointment class, we reformulate the dictionary so that we can create the user. So remember here, remember to reference the correct dictionary here, which in this case is this variable here. So that's like a row in the database. And don't forget to add your table names wherever you have columns that are duplicated when you join the tables together. So this is the name of the joined table, whoops, name of the joined table users here. Okay, so we create this dictionary, we use the dictionary to create the user, and then we link the user to the appointment. And this part is where we were splitting those tables up from last week. You don't have to worry a huge amount about that, but basically same idea. So before we dive into the HTML, does anybody have questions on what we've done in these lines here? Cool. So now we're going to go ahead. We're actually going to use this variable, this method instead in our appointments controller. So we'll go here, and I'm going to just copy this part here, and then I'm just going to comment this out. Should still function the same here. So before we add any code to the HTML, let's just go here just to make sure this hasn't changed. Refresh. I'm going to guess the silver stuff. Let's see. Yeah, silver stop, hang type, restarted. Okay, let's try it again. Here we are. So nothing's changed, that's good. So now we can go ahead and add the table to show the name of the user who made that appointment. So now we're gonna go into the HTML file and we'll go ahead and do that here. So it was in the landing page here. So we're gonna now add one more column to this. So that's going to be who made the appointment here. So I got to find here we go. Date creator, I guess. So that means I'm going to have to change this here. So we start with this variable, this appointment, which is the variable we have for the for loop here. And then remember, after that period, we have access to all of our attributes in the appointment class after you reference the variable itself. So that means you now have access to task, date, status, ID. So all of these on the left-hand side. ID, task, date, status, creator, updater, and user. And since we want to show information about the user, we need to add the word user next. So this now references this thing here. And now, and we changed it from none to this appointment instance here. So now that we have linked the user to that appointment, we now have access to any attributes in the user class. So now we can go user dot whatever you want, first name, last name, you name it. So first name, for example, just to demonstrate that. Now go ahead and do the same thing here. Creator. Copy that out of the line here. There we go. What was this? Here we go. There we go. And now let's save it and see what happens. Fingers crossed. And there it is. So so it's only been one account so far. So it might help to test this out with someone else. So let's log out and let's create another one. Let's say Johnny Rocket. I don't know. We'll register here. Okay, close that out here. Notice that this is the person who made the appointment, not the person who's logged in. I've seen a few folks put the name of the person who's logged in here, which is a no-no. It has to be the person who actually made it. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a new appointment for good measure here. And we'll just say, do AJAX work. The fourth shot work we're gonna work on next in the lecture. Let's see. Pending, I'll leave that's pending, we'll add it. And now here we go. And you'll notice these these tables are split up because these were in the past. And this is in the present or future. You'll notice here it has the name of the person who made it, not the person who's logged in. So it's not Adrian, it's Johnny here. And I'll just log out and log in as Adrian again, just to show you that those names will not change.
It doesn't look like it's separated out by current and past. It's separated out by the user that created it.
No, that's a coincidence. That's only a coincidence. I'll show you right now, actually.
Okay.
Fix computer. That's purely a coincidence, honestly. Now you see those names show up here. So two people have made appointments, but notice that they're both in the future or today here. Anything that's in the past gets inside the table here. So these three are in the past, but these two are today or in the future. So that's how we split those tables up. Now it's just that extra feature that I know some of you want to see. That's just be demonstrated, that's all. But yeah, it has nothing to do with name. It wasn't split up by name, it was split by date, that's all. Cool. So does anybody have any questions about how we managed to get these names to show up here? Cool. So if you were wondering about how you would get a view feature working, it would basically be for the most part the same. So I'll just go back to the code here. Yeah, definitely feel free to rewatch this. It's absolutely fair game here. So anyway, going back here, I did this for all appointments with all users here. You could easily adapt this for the most part with a couple slight changes to work for just showing one appointment. So the only thing we have to be careful about here, and I'll just start typing out. I don't know if I'll finish it here, or maybe we could. But yeah, the only thing you would just need to add is a where clause. Where, and then you have to be careful here because you can't just say ID because there's both the users table and the appointments table both have ID. So you have to add the table name. So if you want to grab all the appointments made by one person, if you're starting with the appointments table, you could just say this, users.id equals that, some value, of course. You'll put that in yourself, of course, so something like whatever this is, you know. But yeah, you'll need to name the table here if you'll start it. But yeah, it actually wouldn't matter either way if you start with appointments and join users, or if you start with users and join appointments here. You'll still need this here because it's dependent on the person who made the appointment. Oh, actually, wait, I take that back. I'm sorry. I got that mixed up. I forget what I just said here. I screwed up. Let me get that right. Sorry, let me try that again. If we're viewing an individual appointment, one appointment only, this should actually be appointments ID. That's my fault. My brain's worn out here. So if we're viewing one appointment, you would just have to add this part here. Sorry, this is the part you would add. If you want to just view one appointment, you would just start the appointments table and then join the users table. So you grab the appointment and the data link, and then the user link to that appointment. And the part you just have to add is this part where the ID of the appointment equals some number, whatever that is. That's the only thing you have to add. The logic would be pretty much mostly the same. The only thing now here is that you wouldn't need a loop anymore because this should only return one row if it returns anything at all. And then you wouldn't need a loop anymore, and you would just have to change these to reference that dictionary in that list. So it would be in index 0. Everything else is going to be pretty much the same otherwise. Create the dictionary, create an instance of the user. Oh yeah, before that, don't forget to create the appointment as well. Link them together, you're good to go. Mostly the same logic. Yes, Carlos?
Yeah, I had a question about the classes.
Yeah.
I noticed in the user, when we made an instance of the appointments, we used an empty dictionary, and whereas in the appointments, we used the none. Is it safe to assume that when we're linking one to many, we use a dictionary to hold that information within the class?
Oh, do you mean like, let me see if I got your question right. So like you see how we have this list here, is that what you're asking about, this versus
Yeah, versus the none.
this? Yeah, good question, Carlos. Very good question. So in a one-to-many relationship, if you're starting with the one side or one of something can have many of the other, you should use an empty list to start you off here because one user can have many appointments. And so we have an empty list, such as a placeholder where we can add on to it. Compared to if we start with the appointment class or the many side of one-to-many relationship, we can only link one user or one item here because it's one to many. If it was many to many, however, this would be a list. But because it's one to many, just the keyword none would be sufficient. Because only one user could be linked to this appointment. You can't have multiple users. So I guess what you would ask yourself is, can two or more of something be linked to this? If the answer is yes, use a list, like you see here, two more appointments to one user. If the answer is no, however, just use none here because only one user can be linked to this appointment. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, there you go. Any other quick questions here before we take a break here for the lecture? Okay, then we'll go ahead and pause here, and then we'll go ahead and have the lecture in a few minutes. Okay, so I'll see you all in just a few minutes. I'll go ahead and get my tea. See you in a few minutes. Hey folks, welcome to the lecture for Monday, January 31st, 2021. Can you believe it that we're now in the final week of the Python stack, folks? I know some of you are excited to move on. Some of you are probably unexcited. That's okay. A lot of stuff happening. I imagine it's been a whirlwind for a lot of you. Before we get started, though, I do want to make a few announcements. One of them is for those of you who have not passed the exam yet, I must emphasize this one more time. Exam codes will expire at 10:59 p.m. tomorrow night. So that's 10:59 p.m. Pacific. You must unlock your exam by that time in order to actually take it. If you wait too long, well, sorry, that's all I can say about that. So please don't wait here. I have now graded everyone's exams who submitted before about 3 p.m. Pacific or so. So if you had an exam and you handed in, I should have it graded. Let me know if I haven't graded it, and I can get to that as quickly as I can. I do want to emphasize one other thing here is that don't rely on me grading exams at like 9 p.m. tomorrow. You know, I'm not gonna. So don't rely on me like saying. Don't rely on this. Don't have this situation happen. Don't have like test submit at 8 p.m. and then expect me to grade in 2 hours, you know, because it is very late here. So don't wait like that, you know what I mean? Wait, I'm human? Yeah, I am not human. No, I'm kidding. But no, anyway, just don't wait till the last minute and don't rely on me grading tests at 10 p.m. at night. That's all, you know. So don't wait till the last minute in that sense. Cool. One other announcement I do want to make, and that is with discussion topics and assignments. Wednesday is the very last day to hand in assignments and discussion topics. You must have at least 13 out of 15 discussion topics done for any reason, regardless of if you're moving on or you find yourself unfortunately retaking the stack. You must have at least 13 discussion topics in. If you don't have them, you won't be able to retake or won't be able to move on. So please get any missing discussions in. This is the last week. And another important point, the discussions will lock at 10:59 p.m. Wednesday night. So you don't have a full week. If you needed to get a discussion or two in, get it in by Wednesday night. That is the absolute cutoff time. We'll not wait past that, okay? So once again, 10:59 p.m. Wednesday nights when assignments and discussion topics must be handed in for those of you who still need to get those in. So 13 discussion topics, 15 core assignments minimum for both. 13 discussions, 15 assignments, core assignments. Must be in by Wednesday night. Last chance to unlock codes is tomorrow night, 10:59 p.m. Tuesday night, that is. Any questions about any of those things? Because it's really important to remember those for those of you who still might need to catch up. Cool. Yeah, and not exactly the most pleasant news out there, but I just have to relay that information to you folks just because I want to remind you to have all that ready. Cool. That being said here, today and Wednesday's lectures, we're going to be doing some AJAX stuff here. So today we're going to make our sites a little more dynamic in a sense. Now, so we're going to spend these last 2 lectures doing just that. So you might be wondering, well, what's AJAX? AJAX is a mythological figure. AJAX is also a nice cleaner. So we're going to learn how to clean screens right now. Ooh, we're going to clean. Wait, that's not what AJAX is for here? Nah, no, okay, no, it isn't. But now let me explain what AJAX really stands for. AJAX stands for Asynchronous JavaScript in XML. So you might be wondering, well, why would we want to use that? Well, let's imagine this situation. You have a site load. Well, actually, before I even get into the site example here, or a website, let's imagine this situation. And I'll tell you what here, and I'll show you a similar situation if I could find it here in the documentation, in the platform here, if I could find it here. So yeah, let me share my screen. I'll share with you this analogy that they show here. So if you're curious, if you go to the Python section here, if you go to AJAX, what I pulled up right now is the overview of AJAX section, and they have this restaurant analogy, and I'm gonna give you my own take on this. Let's imagine this. You're working on building a house, right? So let's say we reach the point where the foundation's already been poured and you built some of the walls up, right? Now, let's imagine this. Let's imagine you have like a team of carpenters, a team of electricians, a team of plumbers, a team of whomever here. Is it always going to be necessary for one team to wait on another team? Is that always going to be true as they build the house out? So in other words, can 2 more teams work at the same time? Sure, absolutely. You know, maybe when the drywall has been installed, electricians could be installing wiring for your new house, you know, and at the same time you got plumbers working on the plumbing underneath the house. You don't necessarily need to wait for somebody. So here's what thinking synchronously would mean in this case. One team comes in, all the other teams wait. Now, when that team gets done, another team comes in. The other teams wait. Now that team gets done, another team comes in, wait. The other teams wait. So, for example, carpenters are working, plumbers and the electricians are sitting in the background doing nothing. Now the carpenters are done, electricians come in, carpenters take a break, they sit, and the process keeps repeating itself. Wouldn't that be rather inefficient to have just one team at a time the entire time? That would not be a good idea. Otherwise, your house would take years to fully build out. So asynchronous behavior is this. Basically, one team doesn't necessarily have to wait on the other at all times. So you can build this up faster. So like you have the team of carpenters working right now, putting in drywall, and the electricians are laying out the wiring, and you got the plumbers laying down the pipes underneath the ground, and so on and so on. Maybe you have some people laying out the tiles or painting also, who knows? But multiple teams are working at the same time. They don't necessarily always need to wait on something else here to fit, or somebody else or something else to finish. So let's get back to coding here and explain what this is about. So when you run code, most of the time it just runs from start to finish in order, synchronously. So you might be wondering, well, what about websites here? Well, let's imagine this. Let's imagine you're loading a site that has a huge amount of information in it. For example, you have a site that has a navigation bar, 100 different items to look at, not to mention a lot of other things pulled from your database. Do you want all the other code to wait while, let's say, we fetch data from a database? So in other words, let's imagine this. You load a site, the very first thing you decide to do is load the data. Nothing else. No other HTML, nothing. You think that's a good idea to wait for the data to load for 30 seconds and then nothing else pops up on the page? Yeah, forget it. No way. So this is the idea of asynchronous behavior here. And this will be, for those of you who want to take in the Moon stack, this will be a little bit of a preview of sorts here as well. So JavaScript has something called what's called a promise, which basically is better than any human promise ever made, and saying, I'm going to do this for you, I promise, even in good time, essentially. So somewhere, one of these has a little bit of discussion on this here. Now, and they talk about async await functions and a little bit about promises over here in this section here. I'm not going to go into the gory details of that. For those of you who take more down the road, you'll learn a lot more about that then. But basically, the idea is we're going to get some data, essentially. So that's what we're going to use it for. So we're going to have asynchronous functions that are going to run kind of in the background, and then other code will run first. And so what we're going to have is we're going to use asynchronous functions to basically grab data from the database while everything else loads. And we're going to make use of this thing called a promise, well, which basically works like this. We have a function that's going to do something, and then if something works out, we're going to basically go on to this, and then we'll have as many clauses as we need, essentially. But if there's a mistake, we tell them, okay, here's the problem, essentially. So that's about all you need to know for the moment. Don't worry too much about this right now. And by the way, we're talking about JavaScript here, not Python. I should probably mention it right now. So this lecture and the next lecture are going to be a mix of JavaScript and Python. So if you're feeling a little rusty in JavaScript, yeah, feel free to refresh yourself. And that'll be especially important for you folks who wind up moving to projects and algorithms next, to refresh yourself in JavaScript. But that's for you to do on your own. Anyway, so we're going to take advantage of this thing called fetch, which is going to grab data. Actually, wait, yeah, fetch here. So we're going to basically take our site, and we're going to actually manipulate our site so that we can fetch data, and so on and so forth. And here, if you look in the post fetch section in AJAX plus Flask, we're going to basically utilize this thing. Well, we're going to actually send data to a route in the back end, and then we'll get some kind of response back. So that's what we're going to focus on today. So today we're going to basically start building out a site that's going to basically, or at least part of a site that's going to have basically just one page, where we can view a paid team, edit a team. So we're basically using the teams and players project from week 5 here. So I will upload the code here. But yeah, we're going to have one page where you can either view all the teams, view one team, edit a team, and delete team all on the same page. You know, and make it so we only see one of those at a time, so we don't see all 4 things at once. So it's nice and clean. That's going to be our objective here for this lecture and the next one. So ready to go, folks? Ready to start building a page that can do all that at once, in a sense? Ready to go? So the reason why we're going over this is that, let's imagine this. If your page has like a huge amount of data, do you necessarily need to refresh the entire page every time there's a little update? Is that really necessary? Yeah, probably not, you know. You don't want to reload all the information again and take up server time, you know. So what we're going to do here is we're basically going to take out HTML and we're going to manipulate it. So if you remember from web fundamentals, how many of you remember like functions in web fundamentals where you could have like an event where on click you do this, or like on mouse over, mouse on mouse in or mouse out. You remember those functions from web fundamentals? Remember how you had to use some JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript to do some operations like that? Like if you click a button, you do something with it. How many of you remember those? Well, we're going to do something similar here, essentially, with a little bit of a twist. So we're gonna bring in some WebML stuff here as well here. So a lot of stuff we're gonna be going through here. So this is gonna sound like a bit of a crash course in WebML plus this, but hopefully you folks can find some use in this for maybe a project down the road here, hint, hint. So let's go ahead and open up our code here. So this is from the offset. Let me just close these all out here, hang tight. So because there's no login registration, I can excuse me, upload the code this time around here. So right now I have this folder I've created called AJAX Starter Demo. It's basically just going to be our same project here. So it's going to look exactly the same, but we're going to start building it out in a different way here in just a moment here. Before we do that, however, I'm going to have to actually navigate in there. So you'll notice here I had another environment activated. So don't forget to do Control-C to exit the server. And then you got to type X, and then you got to type exit to actually deactivate your virtual environment here. So now that it's deactivated, we'll go ahead and navigate in, and we'll go into lectures, week 8 here, and we'll go to the AJAX starter demo here. So right now, there's no new code yet. It's just gonna be the exact same projects week 5. So let me activate that now. Now I'll just show you all again here what we have, just a quick refresher here. Okay, so let me go back to localhost 5000 here. So this is our teams page. If you remember from week 5, we have a list of teams here. So here's what we're gonna do here. We're basically gonna make it so that we have like a handful of buttons. And you know what I'm gonna do here? I'm actually gonna show, no, I guess now I won't bother. I was gonna say we're gonna show a white screen, but I think I'll just draw it out here. We're gonna have a button that says like view teams. In fact, I'll just type it out because my handwriting's gonna be terrible. View teams, view one team, and then we're gonna have like a drop down. So this thing is gonna become a drop down. So you remember how we have a drop down like this here. This is gonna be a drop down, and then when we select the team, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna show the team immediately, and then we're gonna have some buttons here. And so I'll just type them out here. So we'll do like an edit. I'm gonna say we'll do like edit. We'll edit a team. We'll even delete the team. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about the edit and delete features in a bit. We might say that for Wednesday, but for now, let's just make it so that we can view all teams and view one team all on one page here. Make it so we can just add and remove stuff here at will. We're not going to do the player side for the sake of time here. I'll let you folks play with that on your own. So we're just going to focus on the team side only for these 2 lectures here, just to save time here. And I want to dwell on this forever here. So once again, just to summarize what we're going to do here, we're going to have one page only, where we can click on view all teams that will show all the teams in the table. Or we could click on the button to view one team, or well, maybe it's not a button. It'll just be like a drop-down list where we can show all the teams listed here. And then when we select the team, the moment we select the team, we show their information immediately here. And then we have these buttons to edit and view team, or we could even have a view button if we're on the edit form. We'll demonstrate that in a bit. Well, actually, we'll save that for Wednesday. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. So let's go ahead and just start building this out here at first. So let's just start by just showing the buttons to view a team and view. Let's just grab all the teams and just view the teams just to get us started here. So right now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a new file here, a new template file here. So I'm going to create a new file here. So this is going to be like a dynamic. This is going to be AJAX teams demo, and all we're going to have is one HTML page. That's it. We're not going to have 5. We're not going to have a separate one for adding a team, not a separate one for editing a team. We're not going to have one for viewing a team separately. They're all on one page. Seems daunting at first, doesn't it? Well, actually, this won't. I think hopefully by the time we're done, it won't be as daunting as it appears. But let's just get started by copying all the code from here just to get us going, and then we'll make changes as we go here. Okay, so right now, there's nothing different yet. Well, what we're gonna do now here is I'm gonna keep the nav bar for now, so because of these routes with players here, and I'm gonna let you play the players part on your own. What we are gonna do, however, is we're gonna get rid of all this. So right now, just give me an empty div. It's empty right now. That div is gonna contain new HTML that we're gonna actually add ourselves here through JavaScript. So right now, however, we're going to have like a place to hold all buttons here. So I'm gonna create an ID here. This is gonna be like the buttons. I don't know what you want to call this. But make sure, be careful not to use a name of a class that's already defined in like something like Bootstrap here. So I'll just say Teams buttons holder or something like that. So we're just gonna put that in here right now. And right now we're just gonna have a couple of links here. So I'll go ahead and I wish I hadn't deleted all that. Oops, hang on. So I'm just gonna add a couple buttons here. So I'm just gonna copy these and I'll just type that in here. Here we go. Get rid of this. We're gonna be changing these in a bit here, so hang tight. View all teams. Oops, just all teams. I don't need that. View one team. So this we're probably gonna wind up replacing here in a bit. But yeah, for now, however, let's go back to the controller here. Whoops, this is the wrong controller, wrong file template. Or was it? Here we go. Controllers, teams, right. So I'm gonna comment this thing out. In fact, I'm gonna copy this. And I'm gonna redefine this with changing this how to the AJAX teams file. Here. So let me go ahead and refresh the page. I'm not gonna see much in there right now. Oops. Might help if I, whoops, what happened here? Oh, oh. Got an error here, line 40. Let's see. It's because I commented something out here. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute, wrong file. Where is it again? Here it says AJAX teams HTML line 40. Okay, that file. Oh, okay. Let's see. Why is that? Oh. Let me just get rid of these things because they're in a loop here. I'll just put those in there. Get rid of those for now. Okay, now let's try. That's all we have right now. That's okay. We're gonna make it so that when we click this button, all the teams are gonna show up here immediately. And I'm gonna change this to a drop down in a minute. But if we tap this option to view one team, we're gonna make it so that we have a drop down, and then when that drop down appears, all this goes away, and then we show these other buttons here that will have, edit, delete, or view, edit, you know what I mean. So right now, this seems like it's kind of useless right now, right? Doesn't seem handy yet. Well, this is where we're going to be incorporating some JavaScript here. So right now, we need a route such that when this button's clicked, or this link is clicked, we show all the teams in that table instantly. Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that? So let's go ahead and do that now. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you all something before we do that here in the platform here. And what they do here to accomplish this is that in this example here, where they have like a form here, whoops, I got wrong color, where they have this form here, and then whenever the input button's clicked, we're going to run the script essentially, which has this on submit handler here. And so actually you can have a lot of different ones. You can have like on click or on mouse in or mouse out. So this is a pretty similar thing to what you saw in web most. We're gonna do something similar here. What we're gonna do, however, is that we're actually not gonna do this inside script tags. We're not gonna put all the code in there. We're gonna use an external file for that. So what we're gonna do right now here is I'm gonna show you all something here. And if you go, remember let me ask you folks actually before I show you. Does anybody remember how to link a JavaScript file in a Flask project? Does anybody know? Let me ask you folks before we go ahead. Anybody remember how to link CSS or JavaScript in a Flask project? Yeah, with Stackful and the script tag. So yeah, you actually you both got it essentially. So we can show you this again. If you go to Flask and go to Flask fundamentals and go to stack files, this will be how you would link your CSS or JavaScript files. We're going to do the same thing here. So I'm just going to copy this part only, and we're going to put this here. But I'm going to explain something important here. We're not going to put it in the head actually. We're going to put it in the body. Otherwise, if we put it in the head, we have to add something in the external JavaScript file to get it to run. So I'm going to put script tags actually in here. And I've already created for you folks, I guess I forgot to mention this. I've already created these folders, CSS and JavaScript, and I put this in this JavaScript folder. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, make sure this is correctly named. So this is going to be the team players AJAX file right now. And right now the code is, well, empty. Well, actually I have some stuff underneath it, but I just want to show you something here. So let's imagine, whoops, sorry. Let's imagine this here, if I could find, right. So we have to add an event to this button here, right? So instead of having href tag, we should probably have like an event here. So we're going to do an onClick event, and then inside here is going to be the name of some function here. So here we'll just say grab all teams here. I don't think we're going to need, remember the this, how many of you remember the this keyword from JavaScript when you're talking about manipulating the DOM? How many of you remember that?
You're talking about this?
Yeah, like this keyword, this.
Yeah.
Does anybody remember what that was for? Anybody remember? Going back to web fundamentals. You all, yeah, but don't remember. Well, I'll tell you. This keyword is referring to the element that it's in. So like this is referring to this entire element, in this case, the A tag here. That's what the this keyword is for. So it holds all the information about this specific tag that I've highlighted. So if I were to define another onClick function here, the this keyword would refer to this tag. So I don't know if we're going to need it or not. We're going to find out soon enough, but I'm going to say we probably aren't going to need it yet, if at all, but we might later on. But right now, I'm going to define this little function here that we haven't created yet. We're going to create in a minute called grab all teams. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to define this function here, and I'm going to show you some syntax as a little preview of mine. I'm going to show you some new syntax. Grab all teams equals this, all this. You might be wondering, well, what does this all mean? Why are we doing this? So when you go into Moon, you're going to see these keywords called constant let, which are improved versions of var. You can use var here if you want, but constant let basically function for the most part the same way. There's some subtleties that involve hoisting functions. I'll let you take a look at that in your own time if you're going on the Moon. I won't go into the details here. But anyway, so this is the name of the function. Inside here would be any parameters you would define here. And then this is called an arrow function, which is another way of defining functions here. Don't worry about the details really right now. But just to show you that this works, we're going to do a console log. This button was clicked. And we're going to just make sure that this works first, because if it doesn't work, we ain't getting anywhere, folks. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to pull up the browser again. I'm going to actually right click and inspect the page for you folks here. I'm going to minimize our video for a little bit here. So I'm going to click the refresh button here and go to the console here. And we have a problem already. You get this little message that says 44 not found. Oops. So if I were to click this, get the little error message here. Grab all teams not defined. We have a problem already. That's bad news. Uh-oh. Do we have it in here? We have the script in here. Oh, can anybody see what's wrong with the script tag? I'll let you folks take a look here. Something went wrong. Can anybody identify where it is? So what happened there? Why is it not running? Ideas? What went wrong? Yep, Paul's guide. Look at this. Look at this. Whoops. You get the idea though. It's team, not teams. Oops. Trust me, I'm sure you've all done that at some point, myself included. So we'll change that. We'll save it. Let's make sure it runs correctly this time. Oh, no errors so far. Let's click it. Hey, button clicks. Yay, it works. Yippee. So the button works. Yay. Yay, we can now move up. We can now celebrate. Okay, not yet, but we still have other stuff to do, however. So we now have that working at least. So you'll notice here, it always comes in handy to test your code just to make sure it works first. And this is why I want to test this first, because if this doesn't work, anything we do afterwards, sure, it's not going to work. So now we know this works. Again, make sure your script tag's actually inside the body and not the head in this case. Otherwise, this will not run correctly. Otherwise, you have to add like a window load event otherwise. Anyway, so now we're gonna come back here to the documentation here. Let me show you all once again what we're gonna essentially do here. So going back here to the platform, I want to show you all this post-fetch deal here. And so what we're gonna do here is something that's pretty similar, but what we're gonna do here is we're basically gonna contact the back end here through this fetch method here. And so if you want, so there's some good notes on what this does here. This prevent default basically means when you submit a form, you don't actually follow the HTML's default behavior. So, and we want to disable that here. In this, we don't have to worry about that here because we don't have a form tag for this, so we don't need to worry about this. We are, however, going to use this fetch here method. So the way fetch works is that this is going to be a URL, notice the localhost 5000, you need that in there. And then the second part is basically going to be a method and then some data we're going to send over here. Now, in this case, there's probably nothing we need to send really. All we're going to do is grab some data here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy this part for now, put it in here. But instead of this, we're going to have a method to grab all the teams here. So we haven't defined it yet. We're going to soon enough here. So I guess while we're here, it might not be a bad idea just to go back to the teams controller here. And I'm going to add this route in here now. So this is going to be an AJAX demo here. App.route, get all teams. Grab all teams. For the passengers doesn't scream at me. I'll put some code in there. It's just a minute here. So we're going to call on this method here in a bit. But before we do that, however, I do have to explain what this is. So this is an object, a JavaScript object, or basically a list in Python, where we can specify arguments like method. So the method is the HTML request type. So you've seen get and post. In this case, we are not sending data through a form, so we're just going to make this a get request here. And then there's a body here where you can send some data here. I don't think we're going to need to send any data because I don't think we need it here. These other two parts are from the plot are basically saying, okay, we're going to get a response from this link, which I'll demonstrate in just a minute. I'll explain that in more detail soon enough. And then once we got the response, we're going to basically take the data and we're going to do something with it soon enough. I'll demonstrate this in just a minute here. Right now, though, let's explain what happens, what's going to happen. So the first thing that happens is that we will basically click the button, if I can find it, or click the link. Here it is. When we click that link, this function activates in our script here. And so now what's going to happen is that we're going to go to grab all teams, we're going to run all this code, and here's where we're going to actually go to the back end, and we're going to go to this method, grab all teams, and we're going to grab the data from the database essentially, and then we're going to send it back. Once we send it back, we're going to get a response back. Eventually, we're going to convert this to a JSON format. I'll explain why in a minute, and then this will be the actual raw data itself. So before I start working on the code in the back end here, you have to grab all teams and then get all teams. Yeah, I know, but it's supposed to be all, they're different actually. Let me explain why here. Grab all teams. One of them is what we've done before. The other one is going to be for AJAX here. So they're two different things here. There are going to be two different things here. Just make sure you don't duplicate a route name or a method name. So this is from before, but this is going to be with AJAX here. So hang tight with that. There are different things here. Don't worry about that. I know why you might be a little confused by that. Folks might be a little confused there, but there's two different things. We're going to basically demonstrate this in a bit. And this route here is going to basically show this entire page with these buttons all ready to go. But here, when I click this button, what we're going to do is we're going to basically add HTML here. We're going to do that in just a bit though. So hang tight in that respect here. So here's where things are going to get interesting here. Now we have to figure out, well, how do we actually get the data? So here in the back end, in this bottom example is how we're going to do it. And I want to call your attention to a new thing we're going to use here called JSONify here. So the way JSONify works is that it is a function that returns not the data in a very specific way. It actually serves it back as an HTML response object. And that's important because whenever you make requests, we need a response object back. And so we use this JSONify, which returns the data in a response object here, essentially. And so we're going to do something similar here. So I'm not going to copy that. I'll just add JSONify here. Oops, I can spell it. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we need to call on the method grab all teams, but we have to do this in a specific way, however. The way we've written this method grab all teams, that we got instances of classes back. Unfortunately, we cannot send data back as an instance of a Python class, sadly, which is unfortunate. So we have to use lists and dictionaries, which are equivalent to arrays and objects, respectively, in JavaScript. You remember those. So it's a little unfortunate, but that's the best way we're going to have to handle this, and we're going to have to create a new method for this. But yeah, let's just grab all teams from database as a list of dictionaries, not a list of class instances. So we're going to have to define a new method in our model for this, unfortunately, but that's just the way it is. So I'm going to add this here somewhere if I can find a place for this. Let's go. No, that's not. No, let's see. I think I'll just put it here. Grab all teams and return the data as a list of dictionaries. So the method, the query itself is going to remain the same. However, what we're going to return is that variable directly this time. So I'm just going to change this to a return statement, actually. So we're going to do that here. So actually, it might help if I add a couple of other things, however. Class method. I got to change this name. Grab all teams AJAX. I'm going to call it AJAX to make that clear so I don't duplicate this column, this method name. So what we're going to do here before we do anything is I'm just going to test stuff out here. Again, slowly but surely. You don't want to build this out too quickly. Otherwise, it'll be a lot harder to debug here, essentially. So going back to the teams controller here, I'm going to say all teams equals the team file dot team model dot grab all teams AJAX here. And now this is here's what we're going to do. If you remember, here, we're gonna do return JSONify, which basically is gonna, and the way that this works, that the way it would work in this example, I actually make clear is that I would return the list like, actually I'm gonna write it out. It would turn it like this, essentially. So what happens is that when you return this back, when JSONify is basically going to return it in this format. It's basically the key value format you've seen before with a dictionary or an object in JavaScript. Same format, essentially. In our case, we're going to have something pretty much the same here. I wonder if we could just pass that variable directly in without saying to assign it to a variable. You might be able to get away with that. Well, let's just find out. Return JSONify all teams here. Okay, so basically this is going to send the data back. And now once this is done, we're going to basically go back to this function here, the JavaScript function, and then the response is going to basically be this thing here. So this is going to be the response object we're going to send back to the JavaScript file here. So let me split this up here. If I could get split. There we go. So what we're doing here is when this method's finished, it's going to basically send something to this first then statement, and that's going to be our response. And then in our response, we're basically going to, this is where we actually convert to JSON. This isn't actually technically in JSON format. Remember, it's a response object, HTTP response object, essentially. So this takes a response, and then we formulate it as an actual JSON object, and then from there, we can just print the data out here. We're going to obviously do something a lot different in a minute, so hang tight. But let's just test it out, and let's see if it works. Fingers crossed. Here we go. Let's click the button, and let's see what happens. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, we have a problem here. Grab all teams, for not found. We have a problem here already. Grab all teams. Let's see. Get all teams that I named this correctly. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Carlos, you were right. That was my fault, not yours. I mismatched the names. That's on my fault. I'm sorry. This is what happens when I don't pay attention to names of routes. Oops, these don't match. Oopsies. So we gotta change that. And I'll just change it to stick grab just to be consistent. That's my fault. Yeah, good catch, Carlos. I did not understand you the first time. Well done. Yeah, I've seen too much 404. 404 not found. 404 brain not found. Okay, maybe not, but anyway. Let's try that again, shall we? Look at this. It worked. Now let me show you all something. Let's expand this. Hey, do you see this, folks? City, Seattle, Las Vegas, Tampa Bay, Carolina, New York. Yay, it's in there. Yay. Yay, so all data's in there. So we have successfully grabbed our data from the database, and now we can basically put this into this page here. Now you might be wondering, well, how in the world do we do that? How can we just dynamically put this information in here? Well, let me show you how we're going to do that here. So how many of you have created elements or in JavaScript before, like created an A tag or an H1 tag or a P tag or anything like that? How many of you created tags through JavaScript before or have manipulated HTML? How many of you know or remember how to do that? If you don't, that's okay. We'll go through this as best we can here. So what we're going to now do here is we're going to need a way to take all of our data and somehow put it in here. So we're going to need to create some HTML dynamically for that. So right now, there's nothing really there right now. So we don't really need to worry about this thing right now. We don't have to worry about the back end for a while. Now it's just going to do front end stuff here. So I'm going to close all these things out here. And now we're going to take this thing here. In fact, well, yeah, I'll keep them side by side. Actually, let me do that. That's better. Okay. Here we go. So here, let me just tell the word map quickly for this. Okay. All right. So right now, let's hold all the buttons we're going to display. Well, we need a place to put the data in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to create a div here. I'm going to say AJAX, I don't know what to call it, so I'll just call it AJAX data placeholder, I guess. So right now, it's an empty div. There's nothing in there. In fact, let me just leave it like that. An empty div. So what's going to happen is that we're going to basically add HTML to this div here to display all of that data inside that div. So how do we do that? Well, let me start with this, folks. Does anybody remember or anybody know how to grab a tag by its ID? Does anybody remember how to do that? So here's a good challenge here. Let's see if anybody remembers. Yeah, Amy got it. So the method's called getElementByID, and we have to use that from the document class here. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to expand. I'm going to have to put some stuff around here. So we're going to, because this is going to get very long quickly here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do like a let a placeholder tag, div equals document get element by ID, and then we have to put the name of the ID, which I believe is just AJAX data placeholder. Just remember, of course, remember from HTML from WebFlows, you don't want two tags with the same ID name. That's a big no-no. And I'll just do a console log here of the placeholder to make sure we are grabbing it correctly. You notice I'm going kind of slowly, deliberately, and that's because I want to make sure that we don't mess this up here, you know. So let's go ahead and go back to the browser and let's just refresh this. Click view, and we only got a null here. Uh-oh. Is that spelled correctly? AJAX data placeholder here. So anyway, let's just test something here. Let me add some HTML inside. I'll just do this. Placeholder div dot inner HTML, and this is just testing again. Equals hello world. And let's just see if that actually works here. Uh-oh. We got a problem here. It says, cannot be properties and blah, blah, blah. What happened here? Document.getElementByID, AJAX data placeholder. Can anybody see what might have caused it? Can anybody see what might be wrong here? Parenthesis. Where do you see the extra parenthesis? I did. Oh, thank you, Carlos. That's exactly right. I forgot to save the thing. Wouldn't that be nice? Oops. Thank you for catching that. Well, it's still the same problem, however. Let's see. After the curly bracket. No, this is supposed to be here actually because it's part of the then that actually is supposed to be there. That's not the problem here. So that's not it. Well, let's take a look here. Let's just make sure we're using it correctly because who knows if we're using this incorrectly. Get element by ID. Element by ID. Let's just double check fast just to make sure. Maybe I typed it incorrectly. ID. Hmm. Weird. We may just copy and paste this in here just to make sure that didn't misspell it. For all we know, that could be all it is. Single quotes. I don't think it'll be a single quote issue. I don't think that would be it here. Let's see here. That is working earlier. Why is it not working now? Let's see. It's not. Oh, it's not function. Oh, wait. You know what it said here? It says it's not function. I messed that up here. It's not function. It should be like that. I messed that up here. Now let's try that now. Hey, look at that. Look what happened here. Hello, world. Yay. Yeah, so I messed it up because I had made this a function when it's a property. So that was my fault. Whoops. Anyway, it is grabbing the tag. So that's good. That's a good start here. So it is grabbing the tag. And now what's going to happen eventually is we're going to basically add a bunch of elements to this thing. So I guess so now what we're going to do here is we're going to create a table here. So I'll say let. By the way, I'm using let instead of var, folks, if you're wondering. And that's again preview mode here. Let new table equals document.create element. And I'll just say table here. Let's see here. So what this create element method is doing is that it's creating an HTML tag essentially. So you can make an A tag, a table tag, an H1 tag, a P tag, whatever you want here. The create element function does, or method does just that here. And what we're going to do eventually is, if you remember, back here where all teams, we basically made a table like this here with a head, a body, and so on and so forth here. So we're going to do something similar here. So we're going to create a table here. And again, you could do this a lot of ways, honestly, here. So I'm going to do like let table head equals document.create element. And this is going to be t head here. Table head. I'm going to do like inner HTML just because I don't want to spend a huge amount of time making this thing. TR, and I'm going to add on. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Let me make this a variable. Let inner table head HTML equal this. So I'm going to create a TR tag. You remember in the table we have a TR tag here and then a series of TH tags. We're going to do something similar here. So let's do that here. Let inner table HTML on head HTML. We're going to add on some TH tags like this here. What do we have again? ID. And then we had team name. And that's all I'm going to put in there, just team name here. Why is this going crazy here? Let's see. Oh, because I have var, it doesn't need to be. I'm sorry, let doesn't need to be there. There we go. And post a TR tag here. And then I'm going to set the head of the HTML. I'm going to set the HTML to this long string here. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the head here. Actually, I'm going to take the table, the new table, and I'm going to append. So there's two tags here, two functions. One's called append, one's append child. Remember what child tag is? Does anybody remember? How many of you remember child tags and parent tags from web fundamentals? So just a quick refresher here. Let's imagine this. You see these TR tags here? All three of these TH tags are children tags of the TR tag, which is the parent. And so we're doing something similar here. We're just basically saying, okay, we're going to add this. We're basically going to set this. We're going to add this table head to this. And so what we're going to do here is we're basically taking this table tag and we're basically adding this child called a T head tag. And just to show you again, this is the parent table tag. The immediate child of that is the T head tag, or the children are actually the TH and T body tags, which are one level down. So those are parent and child tags again. We're going to create the body in just a bit here, although we may not have time for that here. We'll see. But anyway, here's the child. And now what we're going to do here is we're going to take this placeholder div, and we're going to basically append this child to that. And now let's see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this. Now watch this. Uh-oh, that did not work the way I was hoping it would. Table's not defined. Oops, where did it say this? Line 17. New table. New table, not table. Oops. Oopsies. Let's try that again. Hey, look at this, folks. Here's our table here. There's nothing in there yet. We'll change that in a minute. But now we have our table here. Yay. What happens if I were to click this again? What do you think is going to happen? You think we'll just still have one? Or do you think something else is going to happen if I click this button again? Any ideas? What would happen if I click this button? Will this just stay? Will something else be added on to this? Think it would stay? Let's find out. Showed up twice. Do you think that's good? Think that's a good thing? Probably not. So you might be wondering, well, how do we get rid of the first one? Let me show you how. So remember this placeholder. Let me actually show you the code that we have right now. So if we go back inside the body here, let's go inside here and look what's in here. We have two tables already. Shouldn't we get rid of those tables first though? So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to take all the HTML inside this div, and we're just going to get rid of it. And so now what we're going to do here is we're going to take this, we're going to reset the div by doing this. Placeholder div dot inner HTML. That's it. We're just going to get rid of it. Now, so that clears it out. It clears the HTML in between those tags. And now if we refresh it, click this, works okay. Now watch what happens if I click it again. There's still just one in there. There's not two, there's not three, there's just one. And so what this is doing here in line 9 is that it's taking what's inside this div here and just clears it out. Just start fresh here. And then we can basically insert a new table for ourselves here. Okay. So if you give me just 5 more minutes here, I'm going to get the data to show up, and then we're going to end it here, and then we'll call an end to the lecture here. So this first part here was just creating the head of the table. And now we need to create the body of the table. So what we're going to do now is we're going to leverage this variable here, and we're going to loop through that. And so what we're going to do now here is we're going to go ahead. I'm actually going to let me just close. Let me see if I close all this out here. Move that here. Oops. Oh, there we go. Oh no, we got it. Cool. There we go. So now we're going to create the body of the table here. So if you remember here, we need a T body tag. So we're going to create that now. T body. And now, if you remember, inside here, we have a loop here that goes through each of the teams, and we just add this HTML. We're going to do the same exact thing here. So what we're going to need is a for loop here. So now this is a JavaScript loop here. So remember, we're using JavaScript syntax, not Python syntax. So if you recall, I'll just do this. If you remember this, so we're going to loop through each team, and then I'm going to do like a let new row equal a tr tag. And now we're going to have a series of th. And now we're going to add some HTML to this. So new row dot inner HTML. We're going to start off with a th tag. I'm sorry, no, not th, a td tag. Sorry. And eventually we're going to close it with another td tag here. We're going to close the td tag here. And then inside here, we're going to put in the name of the team, and that would be data of k dot, and just to show you all once again here, we have city, creator, all that stuff here. So just expand, we got city and name here. So we'll do the city. Well, actually, I'll just do it this way: plus a space plus data k of what was it again? Name. Yeah, name. And I actually forgot to put the ID. That's a fast thing. That's pretty straightforward. Let's see. Okay. And that should basically create all the rows we're going to need here essentially. Is there a way to add a multi-line string instead of adding the plus over and over? Yeah, there is a way to do it actually. I'll tell you, can I post it on Discord afterwards as an additional note? Is that okay? Okay, you got, okay, remind me just in case, but I'll make a note of that. Multi-line, adding a string. Yeah, there's a way to do it. I'll demonstrate that after the lecture. I'll post some code there. But yeah, good question though. For now, however, what we're going to do here is we're going to basically take this and we're going to add to the body of the table that pen child, the new row here. So we're basically going to add this row to this table, but the body of the table. We're just going to do this for each team, and then once we're done there, we're just going to add it to the table here. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take this table here, and we're going to append the body here. And I got to move this thing back here. There we go. And then finally put the table in. And now for the moment of truth, let's see if this works. Doesn't that look nice? Cool, huh? Click it again. Same information as before. Click it again, same information. It doesn't copy itself several times. So that is how we can manipulate the DOM to show all the teams here on one page. Just make it dynamic by just clicking a button. So there's a lot of steps involved here. So what you basically would need to do is you need to create a JavaScript file first. And you need to link it here, somewhere in the body. I think I did that here. And then here we basically call it fetch API to send a request to the backend, which basically would go to your team's controller. It would go here, and then we have to write a new method to grab the data back. And then once we've written that out, we basically return the data back as an HTML response, essentially. And once you send that back, then it goes back here. And that is the response is basically the data as an HTML response, and then we convert to a JSON object. And a JSON object is actually used a lot, so it's something that's definitely good to know. And once you have that data, we can basically manipulate the HTML like this. I won't go into gory details again. But yeah, so that's how we just make a button, and then we can just do some magic. So we got it to work for all teams, and then in Wednesday's lecture, we'll make it work for one team. So we can view each team one at a time. So we're gonna replace this with a drop down. We'll do that another time. But we'll do that Wednesday. So anybody have any questions on this? It's okay if you're feeling a little lost because I did throw some JavaScript at you folks.
I had a question of how
Yeah.
you would be styling this. Would you include the CSS in the JavaScript file or in the HTML, or how would that?
So like your own CSS?
Yeah, like make it look like
Oh.
a more better table, like a table thing.
Sure. So what you can do here is so in your stack folder, you would have a CSS file here like this, and then you just have to remember to link it up the same way. Basically, you link up the JavaScript file. Just make sure it's in the head of the HTML, and then inside here you can always add your classes like this equals that equals some. Whoops. You know what I mean? You can always add your own classes as you go.
Got it.
There's other methods. There are methods as well where you can add a class to an element, HTML element here. I'll let you folks kind of dig around that, have fun with that on your own. But yeah, a lot of things you can do here. I just wrote the code out this way because I want to make it clear what's being added and so we'll open a TR tag. Here's a TH, TR, just basically the same way as you see here, TR, bunch of TH tags. Same TR, a bunch of TD tags, same logic. I just want to make that clear. That's all. I think it's just splitting up this way makes it clear. And this thing is referring to a row from our database essentially. So, any other questions here before we wrap up here? Cool. Yeah, thank you all very much for coming. I hope this gives you something to look forward to. We're gonna basically in Wednesday's lecture, we're gonna view one team. We're gonna display the information on one team on the same page, and then we can also do some editing and deleting as well, also on the same page here. So something to look forward to for Wednesday. So you guys have a little bit of a preview of more in a sense, because what you're essentially gonna be doing is you're gonna have a component, you gonna add a component, you're gonna remove components. So we're doing something similar here, except it's just basically vanilla HTML and JavaScript. So something to think about. And Wednesday, we're going to talk about other types of HTTP requests. Like here, we just use a GET request, but you can also use POST request. And you can even use delete and put method requests as well. Put and delete, which we didn't really have a chance to go here because of limitations with Jinja's templating engine and vanilla HTML limitations. Anyway, so that's something to look forward to. And for those of you who move on to Java or Morin, you'll learn more about put requests and delete requests as well. So just wanted to give you all a little taste of that. Okay, so we'll wrap it up here. So thank you all very much. We'll see you all on Wednesday's lecture for the final lecture of the final lecture of the Python stack here. So it might feel a little sentimental towards the end, but yeah, thank you all very much, everybody. I'll see you all later. Have a good night, everybody.